Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our Friday weekly Lunch and Learn. Every Friday at noon, Sierra Club Iowa chapter goes live to give you an important environmental update. And today we have an especially important one and one that we've been really excited to plan for the last couple of weeks. And it is with Kay Newman with SOAR. And we're going to talk a little bit about lead shot and the risks and dangers that it poses to birds, raptors, wildlife. And Kay dedicates her life, and this organization dedicates so much work towards helping our raptor community. And this is a problem that they see on a regular basis. So we thought we should dig in, find out about lead shot, the risks it poses, and then what can we do about it to, protect our wildlife friends. So thank you so much, Kay, for joining us. We really appreciate you spending the time with us on Friday.
Sure.
Awesome.
All right. So do you want me just to jump in
Yeah,
and
tell
go? Or
us
do
a
you
little
want
bit
to ask?
about
Okay.
yourself and
And so
SOAR.
if you have a question or something, just chime in to make sure I'm kind of hitting the topics that you're most concerned with.
Yeah.
And so SOAR is a nonprofit. We do wildlife rehabilitation and education and research. We see the last 2 years, we've seen over 450 wild raptor patients a year. So very busy. We usually, so eagles have been the focus for us with the lead issue. We see over 50 eagles each year for rehabilitation. We're one of the very few facilities in the state. I think we're maybe one of two that has a 100-foot flight area that's required by Fish and Wildlife Service to rehabilitate bald eagles. And so we kind of get bald eagles from all over the state of Iowa. 38% of all the eagles that come to us because they've ingested lead. And so that's why it's, close to half. And so the data that we collect is kind of like hospital data. And so if 38% of the people walking into an emergency room or being hauled into an emergency room had a poison in their system, that it would be very concerning to medical professionals. And so it is to us for sure. This is something that's completely preventable. And so that's one of the values of doing wildlife rehabilitation, is that we get to help individual birds have a second chance at being wild and being free. But it also gives us a lot of information as to what might be causing problems for wild animals on the landscape. And so, of course, our data is backed up by wildlife centers across the country and many other researchers. And so when we first started seeing lead poisoning in bald eagles in 2004, we, of course, we're thinking, well, where is this coming from? The easiest way to decide that or to find that out is to X-ray our eagles, because metal on an X-ray is radio opaque. It's just going to glow. So we were finding lead shot in their stomach. And so we'll do just a quick ammunition sort of primer. Shot is something that is shot out of a shotgun. It's loaded into a cartridge. You would use shot if you're going to hunt pheasants or doves or waterfowl. That you would use shot for. Waterfowl, you're required to use non-lead shot, non-toxic shot to hunt waterfowl with. Doves and pheasants, it just depends on where you're hunting them, what the requirements might be. So you can still use lead to hunt doves and pheasants and turkey. And so we're finding lead shot in eagle stomachs. We're also finding lead shrapnel. And so, example of shrapnel. Oh, are you guys going to be, you can maybe kind of see that. And
Yeah.
so if you just look at this half of it, so this is a bullet. This is a bullet. This was shot out of, it's a muzzle loader bullet. A copper jacketed lead core muzzle loader bullet. And so this little piece of lead right here, because as it hits an animal, it breaks all apart. So a tiny little piece of lead, the size of a grain of rice, is enough to kill an eagle. That's a lethal dose. So multiple lethal doses in this one bullet that was shot out of a muzzleloader at a deer. So a bullet is shot out of a rifle at a deer or a coyote or a raccoon, or a rabbit or a squirrel. Those would be bullets. So a rabbit or squirrel, they would probably be using a 22 bullet. Can you see how big those are? Lead one, copper one. Copper's not poison. Lead is, of course, an eagle is just going to swallow that whole thing, and for sure die. That's a lot of lead. So the reason copper is okay and lead is not is that lead, when it enters your body, it mimics calcium, and so you're going to absorb it. You're tricked. Your body is tricked into absorbing too much. When copper enters your body knows what that is, and you need a trace amount of copper. You're not going to absorb too much. It's not going to poison you. So when you go to the Department of Health's webpage, the very first thing they say about lead is pregnant women and children. Those are the two groups that they're most concerned about when it comes to lead poisoning. Both of those groups have a really high calcium demand. So they're very susceptible. If lead enters their body's going to absorb it because they need a bunch. If you're an adult male, you're kind of done with your calcium stuff. You're not growing, you still need some. You're probably going to absorb less from the same meal with those two groups. So it's really a variation as far as who's going to get poisoned by eating lead. No one should eat lead, but it's pretty variable. Eagles are very susceptible because they're so good at digesting things. And birds in particular have a high metabolic rate. And so that kind of puts them in line. It's raining here. Can you guys hear? Puts them in line to be susceptible to lead poisoning. So they eat a tiny little piece of lead. Their stomach acid can dissolve bone and fish scales. And so a little piece of lead going into their stomach, they're going to dissolve that and it's going to go into their bloodstream. Eagles are kind of our primary one. We've seen lead poisoning in Cooper's hawks. We've seen lead poisoning in peregrine falcons because they're other bird eaters. They're of course going to key in on a wounded dove somewhere. That would be, put them right in line for that sort of thing. Trumpeter swans are the other. They're probably second as far as the species that we see lead poisoning in after bald eagles. And I know the Iowa Bird Rehabilitation Group in Des Moines, year before last, worked on a bunch of trumpeter swans, and it was historical lead that had been deposited at Little Wall Lake, and low water levels. And those swans, they're as tall as me, which I guess is not saying much. I think I'm 5'1". But they have a big reach and can get down into some of the sediment and depths that other animals can't. And so that kind of, and they're selecting, it's really raining.
Yeah, I'm here in Des Moines and we don't have any rain yet.
It's a little better. We have a porch with a metal roof. So, so swans with that long reach, they're going to get down into some of those deeper sediments that other animals wouldn't. And they're searching for little round objects. They're looking for seeds. And so they'll pick up shot. We have found lead jig heads in swan gizzards. We found lead sinkers in swan gizzards. And so it's an ammunition issue, and it's also a fishing tackle issue. And so they make fishing you could use a rock. They make fishing tackle out of bismuth, and they have a nice little logo on a lot of the sinkers now that will say lead free. And that's a good one too, because people who fish actually handle that stuff a lot. If you're going to shoot it out of a gun, the person themselves is removed from it a little bit, but people who fish, you're touching it and you can absorb it too. So it's another safety issue. We have tried, okay, so let me see. We have tried, so it's very, very difficult to save an animal that is lead poisoned. Lead ulcerates their stomach lining, makes their brain swell. It actually bumps oxygen off of their red blood cells. And so they're coming in, purple mouth lining, gasping for air because their body's like, you got to get some oxygen in here, but it doesn't matter because their red blood cells can't carry it. And so as soon as we get an eagle in, all the bald eagles that come to us, the very first thing we do is do a blood draw. We can test their blood here for lead levels. We'll start chelating if we need to, which is injections twice a day to bind with the lead in their bloodstream, and that forms a compound their kidneys recognize and can get rid of. And that is usually a 2-week treatment if they can get that far. So a lead poisoned bird, we have about a 10% success rate because usually there's too much damage. It does organ damage.
Must be fast.
It's a very, very nasty poison. And so we actually kind of feel like 10% is not too bad. If you come to us with any other injury, broken bone, concussion, you're starving, whatever, it's about a 50 to 60% chance that we'll get you back out into the wild. So we cannot fix this issue on the backside. It has to be fixed on the front side, and it's completely preventable, completely preventable. We, as I was telling Jessica, our whole family hunts. And so as soon as we discovered what was going on in 2004, my family has not used any lead to hunt with for the last 21 years. And so it hasn't been hard. It's been fine. They still are hunting and doing all the things that they would normally do. Copper muzzleloader bullets for deer, copper slugs for deer, copper bullets for squirrels and rabbits, non-toxic shot, which can be tin, steel, bismuth, things like that for pheasants and doves and turkeys, and of course waterfowl, because that's required for waterfowl.
Why don't people, if it's that easy to just switch the product, is it cheaper? What is it?
And so I need to look at the time.
Oh.
It's been like trying to get my son to mow the lawn. So he'll come and go, oh, I can't find the lawnmower. It's like, have you checked in the shed? And so he'll go, hey, what? There's no gas in it. How about the gas? And so I just feel I was just so disappointed because we would present this information and we would come back like, oh, I can't find it. And I would go online and I would order them 5 boxes of copper slugs and have them sent to their door. And so if I can do it, they can do it. And so we just were getting excuse after excuse not to move forward. And I know change is difficult, but everyone who has switched is very happy with the alternative ammunition. We work a lot with White Rock Conservancy, which is right near us in Coon Rapids. They're 5,000 acres and they do deer hunts and they do some other hunting activities there. No lead can be used on that property whatsoever. That's a completely lead-free area. They're like California. The state of California, they require non-lead ammunition for all their hunting. The rest of the country, it's really a hodgepodge. Story County Conservation Board here in Iowa, their hunting areas are non-lead only. Pottawatomie County, some of the county conservation boards have gone to that on their property. A lot of DNR areas, especially if there's water, will require non-toxic shot, which is part of the problem, but not the entire problem, because eagles will certainly scavenge on a wounded duck or dove or pheasant, but a deer carcass is like, ooh, somebody's left chocolate cake out for me, or a deer gut pile. And so if you go to SOAR's webpage, soarraptors.org, so we've been working on this for 21 years, so we have a lot of stuff there. We have some wonderful cooperating veterinarians that x-ray deer carcasses for us. They x-ray gut piles. And sure enough, if it's been shot with lead ammunition, there are lead fragments in the carcass and in the gut pile, which is definitely something that eagles key in on. People have put out trail cams on gut piles and it's just like whoosh.
Yeah.
They come right in and you know, eat the whole thing. And so the non-toxic shot requirement is great, but it needs to be a non-toxic ammunition requirement so that it covers all types of ammunition and all types of hunting. All right, so we've talked about the symptoms, the success rate, the different types of ammunition, the cost. And so my husband has a $200 pair of boots so that the deer will not smell his feet. So tell me, hunting is a very expensive hobby to begin with. And so our copper slugs, so say we're going to go deer hunting, which is kind of one of our that's when we see most of our eagles coming in, is after the deer season has started. And so lead slugs can range from $5 for a box of 5 to $30 for a box of 5. So there's a gradient of quality. The $30 ones are going to shoot straighter, et cetera, all sorts of things. Copper slugs cost about $15 for a box of 5. So they're right in the middle of the road with our range in the lead slug prices. And so if you can afford the licenses and the orange vest and the
Trail cams.
shotgun and the trail cams, you can pay $15 for a box of 5 copper slugs. And the White Rock Conservancy deer hunting crew, they were told quite a while ago already, they switched to non-lead only. And of course it was like, oh, I hate to imitate them like that, but I'm sorry. That's what it was. It was like, the sky is going to fall. This is going to be terrible. It's going to cost us so much money. And so Liz Garst, one of the board members for White Rock, said, well, I will buy you all of the copper slugs that you need for this hunting season. So they sighted in their shotguns. They went hunting. Everyone loved them. They would not switch back to lead now if they were allowed to. And so they ended up shooting fewer times to harvest just as many deer. These copper slugs are very accurate. And so it really in the end did not cost them what they thought it was going to, because they didn't shoot as many times.
Yeah.
And so it really, everything that we have looked at, it's a win-win-win. Everybody wins. And so the eagles win, the hunters keep hunting, and people who are eating the game meat that the hunters bring home, those people also win. There are many, many studies that have been done that show that the game meat contains lead also. And so people, especially children and pregnant women, should not be eating lead either. And
When you think
so,
about it, when you're buying a new house, there are strict rules and regulations on, disclosure around potential lead sources in the paint or in other, things in your home, and you don't
yep.
think about it out in the wild. But there it is.
And the other issue with and this, as you guys always know, it's a big circle. When we started investigating this, we really were not expecting it to lead us right back to people, but it does. So there's a lot of venison that is donated to food pantries. We've x-rayed some of that ground venison, and about a third of it ended up with lead fragments in it. And so we have been to the DNR directly to Kim Reynolds, or her second in command, I guess. We've talked to, and I bet Cynthia's listening. She did a presentation for the DNR commissioners. So they know about it. Minnesota x-rays all of their donated venison before they pass it on to the food pantry, and they'll discard stuff that they find with lead in it. They could make a requirement that only bow shot or copper shot deer are entered into the donation program, but they declined to do that. And so there you go. There's kind of where we're at. We're just trying to get people good information so they can make good decisions. A professor at Missouri, sorry. kind of a demanding English setter. He did some research on how people make decisions, because that's kind of where we're at. And so it's like if we said, there's no speed limit. We're just going to, if you drive 60 miles an hour, or 55, you're going to be much more likely to reach your destination in one piece and not kill anyone else on the way there. And so people, about 30% of the people will take that information and will make good decisions. 70% will say, if it's so important, make it a rule. And that's what this researcher found out when he interviewed hunters that work for the Fish and Wildlife Service. So they were already, should be aware of a lot of conservation issues. And 30% were like, yep, we've switched to non-lead because of all the information we've given. The other 70% said, if it's not a rule, I'm not going to do it. So really, in my mind, it needs to be done by rule. And there we go. Politics. That's your area.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, that's what we're gonna be up at the Capitol a lot next year.
Okay.
What do you see needs for people talking about it with their legislators? What do we say? What can we do to?
Well, I feel like one of the lower, maybe easier pieces would be that we should not be feeding poor children lead. That seems to really be something we shouldn't be doing. Could the legislature not require the DNR to only accept non-lead harvested deer, bow shot deer into the program? And I know we talked to some of the DNR people. Oh, well, how are we ever going to enforce that? It's like, I've just heard so many excuses that I just laugh. It's like, really? Well, how do you enforce all of the other rules that you've made? You do some spot checks. All of these deer have to have a tag attached as to who harvested the animal. And so you stop at a couple lockers, you x-ray the carcass. If it's been shot with lead, you phone up that hunter and you say, sorry, $100 fine. You're not allowed to submit a lead harvested deer into this program. It would be pretty easy to enforce that.
You do the test all the time, so it's definitely possible.
Sure. Yep. And so there are a lot of lockers that won't process deer because USD will require them to have separate equipment, because when you're processing a deer that's been harvested with lead will accumulate on the blades of the locker equipment, and it could contaminate then the next batch of meat that would go through there. And so there are a lot of lockers that just are not doing deer anymore for that reason. So, it would be a win for them too, not to have to worry about contaminating things with lead.
Yeah.
That would be one thing. At this stage in the game, I don't think there's going to be movement on anything else, but it would be really nice to have a law like California.
Yeah. So maybe this is why it's important to, engage in our election process and talk to your candidates to see where the candidates stand on lead shot in Iowa and in the programs at Iowa State or anything. So that might be a good thing to, prioritize getting people into the office who care about this.
Yes. And I know that there are legislators that do. They just know that there would be no forward movement on it if it were brought up at this stage. And so, but not feeding little kids lead seems like a pretty good goal.
I agree with that.
And that would really help also with awareness. And so, the people that haven't been listening to anything that's been going on for the last 25 years and go to the locker with a deer and the locker says, no, we can't take it if you shot it with lead. That might make them kind of go, well, maybe I don't want to feed that to my family either. Right. And I think it might go a long way to make people aware of the situation.
Yeah. We have one question from someone watching, and twice you mentioned 2004. That's when you started seeing it. What happened? Is that when SOAR started, or did something happen?
So SOAR was founded in 1999. And so, of course, this has been happening before we started working on it. The Raptor Center in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, they were instrumental in getting the waterfowl rule instated, and that was 1991, because that was also a win-win-win. The waterfowl themselves were dying. They were shooting ducks and geese over wetlands with lead shot. And then, of course, the ducks and geese were being poisoned by the lead that was deposited in the water. And then the eagles were also eating the ducks and geese that were. And so sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that's okay.
And so, no, this has been going on as long as there have been scavengers at lead shot. This is just 2004 is when we really started focusing on collecting the data here at SOAR.
Thank you very much. Well, Kate, thank you so much for your time and for running SOAR and making it this wonderful organization. And we'll definitely be bringing this up at the Capitol, and when we're talking with different legislators and candidates. And then we'd love to do another one of these with you sometime and kind of see more of the, the behind the scenes of what you do.
The dogs.
Yes. We like dogs too.
And so SOAR's webpage, there's a wealth of information there, and there are some handouts that are printable. And so if someone knows, this is very timely. Our pheasant season starts next weekend. And so if you know someone that likes to hunt, go over to the webpage, grab a handout, make sure that they're all using non-toxic shot for their pheasants. And you can give them the correct ammunition. Sometimes that sparks them a little bit, but we kind of have went, you know what, you can do it yourself. Just do it the right way. We're kind of no more hand holding here, I guess, is the stage that we're at. But if you know someone and can help them, take them shopping. There you go.
Right.
And get them the right kind of ammunition for what they want to do that doesn't have any lead in it. That would be perfect.
Yeah, Christmas is coming up.
There you go.
I put a link to your website in the chat, so anyone who's watching this later, just click on that for more information about SOAR and for about problems with lead shot. So, Kay, thank you again. I'll be in touch because we definitely want to do another one of these and kind of follow up. And thank you for everything, and thank you to Cindy, who is watching right now, for connecting us with Kay, and everyone that's in the bird and raptor world, because that is a really important thing that I don't think people realize is such a big network of people across the state with not enough resources to do it, but they're doing it. So, yeah. Well, have a great weekend, Kay, and we'll be in touch again. If anyone has any questions, shoot them our way, and we'll get back to you.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.